things that the principals will be presented at SAC, and so the teachers presented for you this evening, but with the support of the principals, which is really nice. And just to let you know how amazing this Model Schools Conference is. One of the ahas that we brought back, because we had a discussion every evening when we got done, we all came together and we started talking about all the different, sessions we went to and what we really enjoyed. And but one of the things that we talked about is that at the conference there were some school board members there too, and community members. And so we would encourage you to attend maybe the next Model School Conference, because I think that you would find it amazing. I mean, it's really hard to describe it, because, just from what you heard today, I think that it would be great for you to attend and just see some of the wonderful things that are happening out there, but also how that relates to everything that's going on in our district. So with that, I just want to thank you. And if you have any other questions, please let them know. Let us know.
Any questions?
How many people went this year?
It's not pretty much, almost all.
I think all of us,
4 or 5.
almost all of us were here tonight.
In addition to what we have.
Yeah.
A
A little over 20 or something.
Because it seems like every year we just get so much out of that.
It was, in my 21 years in Garden City, in my opinion, that's best professional development I've ever attended. Now, did I get anything specific for preschool that I'm going to do that's based on how 4-year-olds learn? No. But just overall education, good practices, there was just, and to me, the thing that I loved is it just generated a lot of ideas that we all kind of shared. And that part, I think, was really good.
I'm always worried about leaving my garden in Garden City and my dogs. And I just, well, first of all, we were in Nashville, so that but it was just really fascinating how the buy-in was immediate. I mean, it was just like, wow. And I agree with that, Josh. I got there and I was just really happy I was there.
If Carla wants to send me, I'd go again next year. Without a doubt.
Renee Scott led some debriefing sessions that I think were the real cornerstone of
Right,
it.
I gotta say, Renee's not here to defend herself, but she did a fantastic
She really
job on the leadership part of it, making sure that all of us were on course.
Super organized, everybody knew where we were supposed to go, what we were supposed to do.
And talk about things, but, if you know Renee, I would expect to be less.
She was sending us reminders early in the morning and late in the evening, and just checking in on us to see what we were doing and make sure we were spreading out and, going to different sessions so we could come back and share. So, yeah, she did an amazing job.
Plus, there was, there was entertainment also.
Just a little.
24 hours a day.
Just a couple of bands.
How many years have we done?
Roger and I sang it and ran over.
3 or 4?
Oh, longer than that.
I would say 5 or 6.
I think so.
But there's been some discussion even about sort of viewing it a little bit differently as a model district as opposed to just model buildings. And that's kind of what you described, I think, here tonight. And what you bring back to the district as a whole and the plans that you have this week and then convey it to your colleagues. Now, I think in the past we've even had 1 or 2 years where we had many teachers go. And we talk so much about teachers being able to recharge their batteries, bring sort of something back to the building community and the district community. And a lot of times it comes back to budget. But for the budget that we spend, it sounds like what you're saying, we could invest better dollars in what we're doing in that training. We do so much sort of, what we call it, on-the-job training, train as we go. But you've got to bring in back to the district the ideas that are out there, the collaborations I think that I hear you having going around the district, not on the shows, but on the teaching. And so this is wonderful here.
I think that's what makes this unique from Garden City's perspective is I think the original design of the model schools was they chose 25 of the top performing schools in the nation, kind of brought them together, and so our concept of taking that not as individual schools, because you might just have one school within a district that was selected to be a representative at the school or at the model schools conference. We want that to be us as a district, and not just have the high school or Berkshire Walker or the Road Child Center be one of those 25, but to take it on and we're going to be a model school district. And so allowing us to send people, different schools represented every year on a rotational basis is helping us take steps towards that and validate what we're doing locally.
And I might say too, sorry.
I was gonna say, that's one of the reasons we have culture at the top of our list here. And I may,
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, to me, it validated too, there's a lot of things that I think we do in the district, and going and seeing, and you got these model schools that are presenting, and they're things that we're already doing. And,
Yes.
and sometimes I feel like we do better than the way that they presented it too. And so I think it definitely, to me, it reaffirms that I really do feel like we're going in the right direction with a lot of the things that we're doing, and a lot of the you know, strategies and things that we're trying to work with our staff. And so that was really good for me.
My question would be, do you feel like you have enough time when you come back to process that and enough support to then share that with the district?
You know, I don't know that specifically it would be time. It is, but it's not, meaning, you know, because it is in the summer, in the middle of the summer, it's very difficult whenever you come back. Roger's got to take care of his garden. And I mean, but you know, it's difficult to get everybody back together while you're still fresh and
Right, still
excited
fresh.
about things.
Well, I mean,
It's just a difficult time.
I plan on doing that K-12 with science during our half days, and that's our time. So that being new this year, that's our time to start spreading. I have 6 presentations that I was able to download off the Model Schools app, like the PowerPoints that I saw while I was there. And I can use those as a basis to work off from.
To kind of go back to that question, I hate having to do this, but maybe not, you know, but that's why I really embraced what Renee said. Find that one thing or that 2 or 3 things or whatever it was and zero in on that, because it literally, there is a piece for everyone. There's the fine arts classroom, there's the rigor and relevance of reading, there's, you know, K-12, you know, I mean, it just, there's so much. So you kind of have to just kind of grab something and make sure that when I got back, I was excited. There was this phrase of empower your staff, you know, empower your staff, and I just targeted that. I really wanted my staff to be engaged in discussing, and they really did it and ran with it, and I was just like, I did it. You know, I made model schools work. I mean, it was worth the trip to see my staff be energized. So, I mean, I don't mean to say no or be negative, but you just have to kind of grab that one thing that really grabs you and run with it. And I think they did that.
Yeah. And I also think though too that there have been, I mean, one of the things I felt like the group before us, the group that went last year, when they went, that at least from my perspective, and I don't know other educators in the room, but Makerspace was kind of the big thing that they really took away from their trip. And so there was a lot of PD that was put forth for that. There was a lot of ideas that were shared, and there was a ton of opportunities for us to learn about Makerspace, and the stuff that Scott had about the Google, the virtual reality things. I mean, I remember Tracy Likert sharing that with us last year, and how that would apply at the lower grades. And so I do think there's opportunities. I've learned a lot from my colleagues from what they had learned before, but it's not near as powerful as being able to see it yourself and to participate that way.
Well, I think it's normal in anything that you attend.
Right,
sure. National Association of School Boards, or even just the KSC.
Sure.
I mean, it's just like mind blown, overload, and then you get back, and then there's just so much of real life that takes. I just wonder, now we have so many alumni with this program, you know, would it be beneficial to have some kind of follow-up mid-year, or, you know, just to kind of re-inspire or like get that adrenaline going again, just by really being in that, you know, in that headspace or whatever you want to call it again. Because it is hard to, like, especially when you do it in the summer, then you come home and then real world, you know, comes at you. I just think
And those
maybe that would
concepts
be
are
valuable.
expanded, like Roger was saying, through different activities with our SAC group. Those things they're not one and done. So as people are bringing back the ideas and implementing those into trial and error of having that done is carried through different committee work that we have, our superintendent's council that we have. Those are all followed up on, and Model Schools does a great job, as Scott mentioned. Everything that they got to go to, they'll have those resources at their fingertips, so it's not, once I leave here, it's done. They have access to it, you can download all the PowerPoints, you can download keynote speakers, you can save any of the presentations that you have, you can bring that with you, so it doesn't go away, that you can refresh it as you have time to refresh it and go back and revisit it. It's all available to them.
Correct.
This would be great to have online though, like what, that way people know what resources are available, what stuck out to you, that book, Christine, I mean, I wanna check it out myself, just to, you know.
Well, in Temple Grandin, when she did the keynote, what was that our last day? She did it, I think. Next last day. She was incredible. And so I come back and I'm like, this is the coolest thing. I work in a building with a pretty high special education population, and a lot of my kiddos are on the spectrum. And so I'm talking to some of the experts in my building, and I'm thinking this is something cool. I bring it back. Well, they'd already heard of her, and they've read her books, and they've done all these things. And so then, but it created more dialogue, and I did, just like Phil said, and I went to the library and I rented the movie. But I would love to see her, and that's something I told Renee. I think she'd be great for us to bring in at the beginning of the year, keynote speaker, because I think, for a lot of reasons, and not just for her ability to speak to the special ed population, which I think would be very powerful, but just the importance of us as educators never to pigeonhole our kids, to recognize that their abilities are way above what anybody can ever perceive. I mean, here's a child who at 5 years old wasn't speaking, and her parents said you needed to institutionalize her. She's never going to be able to do any of these things independently, and now she's got a PhD and has designed, you know, machines that they're in 75% of our slaughterhouses around the United States.
She sees in pictures.
Yeah, and it's
Just
just,
we're
it's
all
incredible.
on the spectrum, which I thought was very powerful. I feel like I'm on the
Yeah.
spectrum. How about you?
Absolutely, yeah.
Because
Well, one
I'm
of the
on
things
the
that you see
spectrum,
that's
sure.
very common for kiddos that have autism is that they'll flap a
You're
lot,
on the
they'll
spectrum too,
do this
though.
with their hands. And so, through the conversation talking about Temple and how she saw things, one of the other teachers that I was talking about said that she was talking to an adult who had autism and said, yeah, that he would do that because he could see the dust particles in the air and he was trying to catch them. And so it kind of explains how their mind works and how they interpret and see things in the world. And so to me, I thought that was really powerful when we look at our population of kiddos that we're working with.
A lot of people asked her questions, you know, but it was like, you know what, she didn't put up with any excuses. It was like, no,
Yeah.
I need
no,
more
no,
data,
no.
I need more data.
Yeah, exactly,
I need
yeah,
more
it was
data.
like, no, tell me a little bit more. Yeah, no, they can do this, no, I don't want to hear that, you know, it was like.
And you could tell everybody around was getting irritated because it was time to go and they needed to get the next breakout session in, and she wasn't stopping. She was just.
And we were sitting there.
She just stayed there all day, I think,
Listening.
with a
We
lot
could have
of-
stayed there all day, we really
It's a
could.
great speech, but it popped out once in a while.
She's great.
Yeah, she was awesome.
I just want to thank you guys for the big commitment to take your time in the summer and attend, and it is a phenomenal conference. Thanks for bringing the ideas back, and thanks for all you do and your work. And it really is that lifelong learning, continuing to grow as educators that really is what's great for our students. And because no different than any other field, our field is not stagnant. And getting better at what we do makes a huge difference with our kids, and that happens through your work, so thanks for all of that.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you very much for your presentation.
You got it.
Thank you.
Good job, guys.
And with that, we have another presentation here on Kansas Reading Roadmap. Leanne, is that you?
That's gonna be a hard act to follow.
Yeah, it
Seems
is.
like every presentation's got veterans, right? Melanie, you wanna come on up?
No,
I don't see the problem with this pencil. I don't see the R missing. Take the word for it.
Okay, I have Melanie Marcy with me here this evening, and thank you, Melanie, for coming. I know she's had a long day of being at school and then doing her after-school program, so I appreciate her being here. But I would just like to share with you some information that we have regarding our data from the school last year. We presented already on what we saw in the summer, and now we would like to present from fall to spring last year what our data looked like. So just a reminder of the schools that have the Kansas Reading Roadmap. Abe Hubert, who is led by Lindsay Scholl, Buffalo Jones with Miguel Alvarez, Lawrence Wilson with Sonny Delon, Gertrude Walker with Jamie Schweer, and Victor Ornelas with Melanie. Okay, so just a reminder of what we saw in the summer. With all of our Kansas Reading Roadmap students, we saw that every grade level was able to narrow the achievement gap. The Kansas Reading Roadmap students did not outperform the non-Kansas Reading Roadmap students, but we were able to narrow the achievement gap, which was quite significant with only 2 months of programming. I don't know what happened in third grade. We had a 6.8% growth. Usually you see less growth as the kids get older, but we did see that big growth there. We also noted that in the summer program, that includes a math component, but most of the grades in math showed gains, but third graders outperformed quite a bit. So that was kind of significant in the summer. Okay, so I'm going to let Melanie, we haven't rehearsed this, I'm going to let her explain the components of the after-school program, because I'm sure that she's better at this than I am.
Okay. We have the individual skill resources, which is phonics. And what we do is we test the kids to see what skill level they're at in phonics, and that's where they're placed. So that they're going to either be in that category or they'll be in the fluency. So if they've hit the category where they've got the phonics skills down, they're put in fluency. And there is 2 different fluencies. The 1-minute reader, which is something that we started last year. And they have a passage to read in a minute. And it's pretty similar to the Ames web that we use for testing. So if they still need to do fluency on that, they're in the 1-minute reader. Otherwise, they're in the individual independent reading, where they're working on comprehension. Then we also have the structured read aloud and vocabulary. Every student is in that, with the exception of third grade this year. Third grade students do the book nook. And it's something they just started. Gertrude Walker started it a week before us. And in that one, it's a 1-to-4 ratio. So you have 1 tutor with 4 students. They're on iPads. And they're really working on comprehension, reading the story together. And so far, it's really neat. I'm excited about it. There's only certain third grade students that can do it right now because it depends on their reading level. Eventually, they're going to be adding first grade reading level and 4th and 5th. And this program here is to help them when they get ready for the state testing and to help going back into the story, finding questions and stuff. And the other thing that we have is Healthy Kids. Every student goes to that. That's usually the biggest group. And we start the evening with snacks.
Okay, and like Melanie said, they added a little bit this year, and I think that's probably a testament to we're seeing across the state that our comprehension scores are not good. By the time our kids get to third grade and they have to do the state assessments, they're still working on some of those phonics skills, some of those middle level skills, and they're not really into comprehension yet, so the big deal there is making meaning out of text. I took this percentage from a PowerPoint that Kansas Reading Roadmap had. They're saying that 66% of the United States 4th graders read below grade level. And if you Google 4th grade reading gap or 4th grade reading slump, you're going to find a lot of research and a lot of information on the fact that our kids don't do well once they get to that 3rd or 4th grade level with comprehension. And part of that has to do with when they're in the lower grades, they're learning to read. By the time they get to 3rd and 4th grade, it's really all about reading the word. So there's that switch in between there somewhere. But we've got to figure that out. We've got to figure out why our kids are not performing well there. But it's used with iPads, correct?
and it adapts for the student's reading level.
And the other thing I'd like to say about that is the teacher that is in charge of that, she has control over where the kid is at in the story. And that, you know, when you do reading in a class, a lot of times the kids will flip pages. There is no flipping. Whoever is in charge has control over what page they're on, and they have to stay with that teacher. And we have seen a lot of progress, and I know my tutor has commented that she's seen a lot of growth in what they're comprehending.
We're hoping that that will increase our scores. But what you see on this slide is the student numbers from last fall to this fall, and they try to keep their numbers at about 70, 75. So you can see that we have a lot of our schools that have shown growth in the student numbers that they have this year. So I'm pleased with that. Okay, kindergarten, when you look at the scores for reading over last year, we're looking at letter naming fluency. Letter naming fluency is just really what it says. I mean, it's just the ability to know the letters. Our Kansas Reading Roadmap students narrowed the gap by 9.7%. Our KRR students showed 22% growth versus 12.3% growth for non-KRR students. Letter sound fluency is being able to recognize those sounds. And again, our Kansas Reading Roadmap students, they didn't outperform, but they narrowed the gap by 10.8%. They grew 28% versus 17% by the non-reading roadmap students. And again, math is not part of the after-school program, but it seems as though, we've seen this before, that sometimes just having that reading knowledge with the problem solving in math, that shows growth in math also. So there's kind of what it looks like on a graph, the letter sounds fluency and the letter naming fluency, and you can see the differences in the growth. Okay, for grade 1, the segments that it works on with reading, the phoneme segmentation fluency, the ability of students to be able to segment different phonemes. The Kansas Reading Roadmap students narrowed the gap by 5%. They had a 9.4% growth. The non-KRR students had a 4.4% growth. Nonsense word fluency is being able to look at a word that doesn't really make sense and be able to sound it out just by what you learned about phonics skills. KRR students narrowed the gap by 7.2%. They had a 6.3% growth versus a negative growth with the non-KRR students. And again, with the math components, they narrowed the gap in all 7 skills from 3 to 8%. So again, we're showing the growth in math, and we're not focusing on math. So that's what it looks like in first grade. Okay, in second grade, we are getting to the upper level phonics skills. Our Kansas Reading Roadmap students narrowed the gap by 3.8%. They showed a 2% growth versus a negative growth with the non-KRR students. And in math, the MCAP, which is our concepts and application, that is our problem solving. The KRR students narrowed the gap by 1.4%. And in our computation, they narrowed the gap by 2.4%. So that's what it looks like in reading for, what you see on the left is a summer, the right is the school year. Okay, so grade 3, what you're seeing in grade 3, the maze, we're starting to get a little bit of comprehension here. So with the comprehension piece, our KRR students narrowed the gap by 5%. They showed an 8.4% growth versus a 3.3% growth from our non-KRR students. And the RCBM is the upper level multisyllabic words. They narrowed the gap by 3.3%. In math, the KRR students didn't narrow the gap in MCOMP, but they narrowed the gap in MCAP by 5.4%. Okay, so again, on the left is the summer. On the right is what you're seeing with the growth during the school year.
And I like to say that on the MCAP, the MCAP, there's reading involved in that. So that's very exciting to see.
Okay, grade 4. And again, they allowed us to have 4th graders involved in this. That's not something that the program was designed for, but we were pleased that they allowed us to do that. So in the maze, the comprehension, our KRR students narrowed the gap by 2.3%. In the RCBM, the phonics skills, they narrowed the gap by 0.5. And you're seeing less growth as students get a little bit older. MComp and MCAP, again, they narrow the gap. So again, there's the graph that shows on the right the growth that students made. So really in conclusion, that our KRR students are not outperforming the non-KRR students, but it appears that the extra time that they're spending in reading is narrowing the achievement gap for those students. And we're very pleased that an added component of that is we're seeing growth in math, even though we're not focusing on math. So very pleased with the progress that we're making with our KRR program. Questions?
I'm just really impressed with how important reading is to every other subject area, including math, which you wouldn't necessarily logically think it does, but with all of the reading that is required in a lot of those problems, especially the way it's presented now, that's amazing.
And I have to credit our coordinators for doing an amazing job with those kids. Put in a lot of time, and I appreciate you being here tonight.
And there's another component that's not on this, is the LIFE program, and we talked about that, I think, last year. And that's why some of the others are never able to come here, because they have their LIFE on Monday nights, so. Yeah, which Bertie Walker has theirs tonight, and so does Florence Wilson. So, and we pick 7 to 8 families that we do activities with for 8 weeks, so.
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. Mine's tomorrow night, so.
Very beneficial.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions for presenters? It's encouraging.
Thank you for everything.
Yes, thank you very much. Okay, with that, we've got item G, new business, discuss a resolution related to immigration. Board, I would recommend that this item, I think, was brought to us by the President, and he wasn't able to be here tonight, and we are a little on the lean side as well. So I would suggest that we table this unless there's objection for a discussion next meeting.
I think that'd be a good idea.
Okay. Hearing no objection, we'll go on to board open discussion. Anything you'd like to discuss, Jean?
I just wanted to, again, thank the West Texas A&M University Herdsman. That was a really impressive display, and I'm really pleased that they were able to participate that way. I would kind of hope that maybe we could have some college trips or visits that the kids do to maybe include that in diversity, because it sounds like they're really interested in us, and it'd be nice to present, see if any of our students are interested in them. So, and I hope that they are able to do that in the future. That was a really well attended meeting.
I was impressed by basically their community support on a community that's out of state. That was a lot of donation, a lot of commitment there. And I thought it was just wonderful for, first of all, the reaching out by the student council and their willingness to do that. It's very notable. Other items?
So we had a good turnout for parent-teacher conferences. They were all crowded when I went, so that looked pretty good to me, so.
You know, one thing I would add on that too, Gene, is on the high school particularly, they added something they haven't done before, I believe, this semester. They had a sort of a pre-parent-teacher conference session several weeks before.
They did that last year as well.
Oh, they did it last year as well?
Yes, sir.
That just was, I don't know how well attended it was, but it was certainly convenient for some of the parents that I talked to. And that, being able to communicate between those teachers and the parents, I think, is a key thing we're trying to achieve. Thanks for bringing that up. Other things?
I'd like to thank Roy for sending out the link to watch the games. I was out of town, watched it online, kind of. I got a little scary a few times, so I made not paying attention would help out. Fortunately, it didn't, but thank you for sending that link. It was greatly appreciated, and for our two broadcasters as well. It was a great opportunity, I think, for them as well to be able to be heard on YouTube. So thank you to them as well for doing a great job. Couldn't hear too much what was going down on the field because of the wind, so it was nice to have them there telling us what all was going on. And then I debated about saying something about this today too, but considering how vocal I was with this last year, early voting has started. So city commission, trustees, and of course us, we are up for elections. So I said, and I think Dr. Carlin has said in the past with our legislators, that you have the ability to have your voice heard very distinctly with who you vote for. And I think these local elections, especially with, I see we have to think of the sales tax, things like that are very important. So I hope our teachers go out and vote and have their voices heard with all of the elections that are going on this go around. And then to be my broken record again, November 16th, 6 o'clock, the big social event of the year. We'll find out who the winners of the Crystal Apple Awards are, and I'm still expecting Dr. Watson to be there, and Sally Cobble as well, and Russ Jennings also said that he would be there. So I'm trying to get this more out there to the public so our teachers are recognized. So please make sure to buy a ticket for teachers who want to show up. See me, I probably have space at my table too. So great event, and I hope all of us can be there as well. And FYI helps as well with that. So it's a great event.
Very good.
Yeah, and along those lines, if board members are planning on attending and need a ticket, please let Joanne, I know you're attending. We can help you with that.
Anything?
Just once again, every time we get presentations and people coming, it just is a constant reminder to me how teachers and people in our district and educators go above and beyond. It's not 9 to 5 or 8 to 4 or whatever their classroom hours are. Constantly just amazed about how much personal time goes into clubs, athletics, professional development, and it's just amazing to me the willingness of just everybody in our district that constantly is giving their time to students, to our district, to schools, to just everything. So it's just, I'm thankful, and it's just a constant, I just feel like we need to constantly remind, because sometimes I don't think we give enough credit where credit is due to the overtime that's put in to, it seems like every level of teaching or whatever your skill is in the district, that constantly seeing that and reminded, and
It's very encouraging, isn't it?
always.
Steve, did you have something?
Yeah, just a reminder that Garden City High School will be hosting the Western Regional FCCLA Conference, State Conference, this Wednesday afternoon. So we'll be releasing school early in order to accommodate that. That was a requirement to be able to do it, and we made that commitment last year, and kind of along the lines of what Dana shared, a lot of people pitching in time and effort to host that and make that happen, and in preparation for that and with those students. So if you're free Wednesday afternoon and want to stop in and check out what's going on, there'll be a lot of kids here from a lot of different places, and a lot of good stuff going on. So.
Another example of putting our high school on display for lots of people who can see.
That's great. Anything else come before the board? I don't have anything as far as discussion, so I might say next board meeting will take place Monday, November 13th at 6 p.m. here in the boardroom. If there's nothing else, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that